You ever watch a movie so confidently bad it makes you question if you accidentally sat through a parody? Like you'd keep waiting for someone to yell cut and admit the whole thing was a joke. But no, the credits roll. The theater lights come up, and you realize, oh wow, they were serious. That's how I felt when I walked out of The Rise of Skywalker, with popcorn in my lap, an existential dread in my soul. Because here's the thing, the sequel trilogy wasn't just disappointing, it was disorienting. Like someone took the blueprint of Star Wars, shredded it, stuffed it into a glitter cannon, and fired it at a green screen while yelling, "This is cinema." And somehow we all just sat there, nodding, pretending this mess made any sense at all. I mean, we went from I Am Your Father to somehow Palpatine returned in the span of 3 movies, and a mountain of bad decisions. Rey got more powerful with each scene without breaking a sweat. Finn got demoted to sidekick with great hair, and Luke. Oh Luke, they turned him into a burnt-out milk enthusiast, hiding from his own franchise. And don't get me wrong, I'm not mad because they tried something new. I'm mad because they tried nothing at all. They played nostalgia Mad Libs with billion-dollar stakes, and forgot that storytelling still needs, structure, motivation. Characters who do things for reasons. Instead we've got lightspeed skipping and Sith GPS systems like we were watching Star Wars, the fast and the Force-sensitive. But the real kicker, the thing that sends my brain into a full Jedi meditation just to stay calm, is how Disney just slapped the word canon on this trilogy and expected everyone to clap like trained porgs, as if decades of storytelling, world-building, and mythic structure could just be overwritten with a couple shaky cam shots and a recycled emperor. In this video, we're pulling the curtain back on why the sequel trilogy never truly fit into the Star Wars saga. Not in spirit, not in structure, and definitely not in soul. We're talking about what went wrong, what could have been, and why so many fans have quietly redefined what canon even means. Because sometimes, the Force isn't just with you. Sometimes it's trying to warn you to turn around and re-watch The Empire Strikes Back instead. Let's take a little walk down memory lane. You remember sitting in that theater in 2015, the Lucasfilm logo fades in. The music blasts you with nostalgia, and then a crawl starts with the words, "Luke Skywalker has vanished." And you probably leaned forward in your seat thinking, that's new, but something was already off, wasn't it? Rey showed up with no backstory. Finn had all the setup and none of the payoff. And Kylo Ren felt like a Hot Topic employee with a lightsaber. But hey, maybe it would all make sense in the next movie. Maybe there was a plan. Maybe it was all part of something bigger. Except it wasn't. Because what we got wasn't a trilogy. It was a 3-movie improv session with a $100 million budget. Each film passed the lightsaber baton like it was a group project, and nobody showed up until the night before it was due. And somehow the guy who started the mess also came back to end it, and made it even worse. You ever wonder why these sequels feel so weird compared to the prequels and originals? It's because they're missing something deeper than just good writing. They lack a mythological core. They don't say anything about the world or the human condition. They're just there, and the weird part is, the more you dig into them, the less they seem to actually connect to Star Wars itself. The tone, the lore, even the rules of the Force. It's like they're set in an alternate universe where everything kind of looks familiar, but nothing actually means the same thing anymore. Here's where I start to get genuinely annoyed. Because the sequels didn't just drop the ball. They launched it into hyperspace and deleted the coordinates. Remember Luke Skywalker? The optimistic farm boy who believed Darth Vader could be redeemed? Yeah. Now he drinks green alien milk and sulks on a rock because he had a bad dream. They turned Han Solo into a deadbeat dad who lost his ship. Leia went from general to background prop. And somehow, Palpatine just came back. No explanation, no build-up. Just he's back, because reasons. Like we wouldn't notice the absolute narrative laziness. The Force turned into a Marvel superpower. Hyperspace suddenly works like a teleport button, and logic was thrown out the airlock the moment a ship could go lightspeed through a fleet, like a cheat code. Remember when strategy used to matter? When tension came from risk? Yeah, not anymore. Snoke was hyped up as the new big bad, then got sliced in half like a sushi roll. Rose was introduced as a major new voice, and then dropped like she owed someone money. And don't even get me started on Rey, somehow knowing how to do Jedi mind tricks and swordplay with zero training. There's a difference between telling a new story and actively undermining everything that came before it. And the sequels seem obsessed with rewriting the past, not expanding it, not respecting it, but tearing it down, because it's easier to burn a legacy than to build on it. The real tragedy isn't that these movies exist, it's that they took something millions of people cherished and made it feel disposable. I mean, imagine growing up with Luke as your hero, only to watch him give up on everything he stood for. Not in a meaningful arc, but in a jaded, bitter shrug. Carrie Fisher passed away before Episode 9 even finished filming, and instead of honoring her properly, they stitched together old footage and gave Leia the most awkward send-off imaginable. It wasn't a tribute, it was a digital patch job that made her feel like a ghost in her own story. And then there's John Boyega, who started out as this excited, energetic newcomer, with a character who could have been a Force-sensitive ex-stormtrooper, but instead got sidelined and turned into comic relief, yelling Rey across every single movie, like he was calling out for a lost dog. The sequels didn't just fail the characters, they failed the fans who grew up with them. They offered us closure and gave us confusion. They promised a new generation and then buried it under nostalgia bait and half-formed ideas. It's sad because there were moments, tiny sparks of something better, a powerful visual here, a musical swell there, but they never added up to anything meaningful. They were scattered fragments of what could have been, and what probably should have been. And yet, somehow, Star Wars still endures, even after all of this. Because the core of what George Lucas created is too powerful to erase. It taps into something primal, mythic, timeless. A story about good versus evil, temptation versus redemption, choice versus fate. The originals understood that, and so did the prequels in their own ambitious and flawed way. But the sequels never even tried. They chased trends instead of truth, spectacle instead of substance. And yet the galaxy far, far away still manages to inspire new fans and old fans alike. Look at what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are doing with The Mandalorian, or what Tales of the Jedi accomplished in just a few episodes. Those projects feel like Star Wars. They respect the legacy without being trapped by it. They expand the universe while keeping its heart intact. Even fan projects have stepped up. Look at YouTube. Look at the fan films, the lore breakdowns, the deep dives into characters that were given 5 seconds of screen time and turned into legends. Star Wars has always belonged to the fans more than the studios. It's almost poetic that even when the mainline films fail, the spirit of Star Wars survives in the spaces between them, in the passion of the people who never stopped believing in what this universe could be. And that brings me to something kind of beautiful. The idea that canon isn't just what a company says it is. Canon is what fans accept. What we pass down, what we keep alive through storytelling, discussion, memes, rewatches, and yes, sometimes headcanons that make way more sense than the actual movies. We don't have to accept the sequels as the true continuation of the Skywalker saga, because in our hearts, we already know they're not. Luke's real legacy lives in Return of the Jedi, in his arc from doubt to hope, not in some hermit drinking milk and waiting to die. Rey doesn't need to be a Palpatine to be special. Finn didn't need to become a punchline, and Kylo could have had a genuinely powerful redemption arc if they just slowed down, built it up, and trusted the audience to care. The best part is, you can still choose what Star Wars means to you, and a lot of fans are doing exactly that. They're watching Clone Wars, rereading Legends books, and making their own timelines that leave the sequels in a dusty old vault marked optional viewing. So maybe there's still a future where Star Wars reclaims its soul, where new stories honor the past without rewriting it, and where the Force actually feels like the mystical energy that binds the galaxy together, not just an excuse for superhero flips and lightning duels. In the end, maybe the biggest tragedy is that these movies could have mattered. They could have been something great. They had the actors, the budget, the world, but they lacked one thing: a story worth telling. Instead of earning their place in the saga, they demanded it. Instead of continuing a myth, they manufactured one. And instead of inviting us to believe again, they asked us to settle. But we don't have to settle. We never did, because the story of Star Wars was never about who's sitting on the throne. It's about the people who rise from nothing, who choose to fight, who fall and rise again. The sequels gave us a broken mirror of what we loved, and that hurts. But it also reminds us of why the originals mattered so much in the first place. It's the contrast that makes the light shine brighter. So no, the sequels aren't canon. Not to me, not to millions of others. They're a footnote in a much larger saga, one that's still being written by the fans who never stopped believing and never stopped hoping. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy my videos, please consider looking at my pinned comment and checking out the links for my Amazon storefront. It contains my favorite Legos, my gear in which I make videos, and comics that I read on a daily basis. I update it constantly, so please, take a moment and click on the link. On top of that, check out my second channel, Critical Analysis Hub Plus, and my third channel, Critical Analysis Hub XP. Just one click would go on a long way in supporting my channels and future in YouTube.